Hello students. So we were discussing about scheduler and dispatcher. We have picked that there are three types of scheduler: long-term scheduler, short-term scheduler, and mid-term scheduler. We had discussed about these two schedulers, that what is long-term scheduler and what is short-term scheduler. So let's have one quick review and then we'll move into the third one, that is mid-term scheduler. So we had said that in new state, that is long-term scheduler. Selection of process which are newly created is done by LTS long-term scheduler. And then dispatcher will send process which are selected into the ready state. Now in ready state, short-term scheduler will work and it will select process which you want to send to the running state. Now, from running, if process got completed, then it will get terminated. So there is no scheduling required. Then again, otherwise, if it want to do certain activity, so what it will do, if suppose it want to uh, do certain IO activity, apart from CPU execution, so it will move into the wait state. We had discussed this state transition diagram earlier also. And if it get completed, it will move to the ready state for further execution into the CPU. Now, there is one more thing which we had discussed, that is that if my RAM get full, now what happened? We will move into the suspended state. I hope you are aware of suspended state. So there is one wait suspended, where we have picked that if my waiting queue gets full, I'll send processes from wait to the wait suspended, and wait suspended is in hard disk. And then I'll again, once it gets free, I'll select certain processes and send to the waiting state or into the RAM. Similarly, we had one more state, that is ready suspended. And how it works: in ready, when ready is full, it will send processes from ready to ready suspended, and again it will get revert back from wait suspended. If processes are now ready, they will be sent to the ready state. So ready suspended is again in hard disk. So how to deal with these kind of things, where we are saying that what are different processes which I should send, or in general, in technical term, I should swap out from memory. Here memory means RAM, and swap in to the memory means hard disk, RAM to hard disk, and hard disk to RAM. How to perform these things? So here comes the concept of mid-term scheduler. Mid-term scheduler is responsible for selection of processes which you want to swap out and swap in. Be careful. Generally, once you study a book, you always get confused with respect to midterm scheduler. First two scheduler, they are quite easy to understand. Long-term scheduler, straight away, new state. Short-term scheduler, straight away, ready state. But In midterm scheduler, in book, actually it is given like this, that in running, here one thing written, partially swapped out and then swapped in. And this was given that this will be done by midterm scheduler. So we tend to get confused that what is this thing? What it is? It is that I am, once again, which I had written here, I am sending processes out from memory and bringing processes into memory. So the selection of suppose I have n processes in waiting. Now, now my RAM is totally full. Now, what are the processes which I want to send to the waiting suspended? How to select those processes? You require certain criteria to send that process out from the memory. Suppose I have selected on the basis of size, so that my RAM get free as soon as possible. So I have, on the basis of this specific criteria, I have selected that process X and Y, because they are suppose 100 MB process, they should be sent out from the memory. So that is the primary criteria of the selection. So in this way, selection can be done and processes can be sent from wait state to the wait suspended. Similarly, the same case can be applied from selection from ready to ready suspended. Now, once my process or once my space in RAM get free, what I'll do? I'll once again select that what are those processes which I can again send to my RAM. Now, suppose here I can deploy the reverse mechanism, that the smallest process which is in ready suspended or in wait suspended will be sent to the RAM. Please make sure this is not the only criteria. Once we will move into the CPU scheduling, we will pick so many different criterias of it. So that is the overall thing. I have just given one example that how uh, processes can be moved out from the memory and how processes can be moved in to the memory, which kind of uh, uh, why scheduling is required and which scheduler works for them. So that is overall functionality of midterm scheduler. So one by one, once we will pick again, long-term scheduler is used for processes which are newly created and you want to send those processes into the ready state. Short-term scheduler is used to send processes to the CPU. So be careful. Scheduler do not send processes to the CPU. It only select processes. So where it select into the ready state. Now midterm scheduler. Midterm scheduler is used uh, to select the processes which you want to send out from the memory and again wants to bring in to the memory. And sending processes out from memory out from memory is known as swap out, and sending processes into the memory is known as swap in. Generally it is known as swapping. So swapping concept is used to send processes from RAM to hard disk and hard disk to RAM. So swapping is handled by or selection criteria of swapping is handled by midterm scheduler, and swapping is actually done by midterm dispatcher. Similarly, process sent from sending of process from ready to run is done by short-term dispatcher. Process sending from new to the ready queue will be done by long-term dispatcher. So that is overall different type of schedulers, long-term schedulers, short-term schedulers, and mid-term schedulers. So I hope that you got what is long-term scheduler, short-term scheduler, and mid-term scheduler. Now, once we talk about these three things, there is one more thing that comes in our mind, that why it is called long-term scheduler, why it is short-term, and why it is mid-term scheduler. So, in next lecture, we will specifically focus on these things and discuss these things. So, that's all for this lecture. Thank you.